Mr. Speaker, at this time last year, the 26th of July, the writing was on the wall. The writing was on the wall because obviously it was a bloodbath. By this time, the people had spoken. And while I stand this afternoon to speak on the Firearms Amendment Bill, I believe it is appropriate that we reflect on the actions of the people of this country, who last year said enough was enough, and who felt that there was a need to make some bold moves, take some bold decisions, and to put this country on a path of prosperity, tranquility, and honest leadership. The Red Brigade for Bread, Freedom, and Justice, under the command of the five-star General Philip J. Pierre, led his St. Lucia Labour Party to a resounding victory a year ago. I take this opportunity as the leader of the Blue Wave, who saw the need to transform what had taken root in this country into a positive direction. I take this opportunity to congratulate General Philip J. Pierre and his team of victorious members of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, but it didn't end here. It didn't end here. There were those who understood that on the 8th of June, when I made my move and explained my move and said that I have served you well under one banner, my term has come to an end, and I believe I must now present myself on the platform of independence, like the member for Castries Central. Those who were yellow and who felt the mood and had the conviction joined me. Those who believed in me over the years continued with me. And those who were from the other side, the Labour Party, came forward and said, brother, we are here with you, collectively, united, we are going to fight them, and together we shall be victorious. I take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to congratulate all those who gave me yet another opportunity for the 6th time to represent them in this Parliament among a number of individuals, a team of individuals who have demonstrated tranquility, compassion, understanding, transparency, and accountability, with a zero tolerance on corruption, where I feel comfortable in. I thank them for having joined me and made me the success that I am today to represent them yet another time. I want to thank them, Mr. Speaker, because year after year, they gave me the benefit of the doubt. They gave me the support, and they continue to say, move on, march on, and represent us in this Parliament. I want to thank all of the constituents of Castries North. I will not venture to mention names individually, but I thank particularly my family, my wife, my constituency branch who have been there with me, the Castries North St. Lucia Labour Party branch who has stood with me in this last election, and others throughout the constituency who have created this wave, this movement, and who will continue to ensure that St. Lucia preserves the administration and bring the level of stability that is required in this country. Now, Mr. Speaker, I am here today to support the Firearms Amendment Bill, which I believe is necessary. It is necessary because of where we are now in this country. It is necessary because of the spiraling violence within our St. Lucia, our community. Not for the first time, but definitely this time there must be an end to it, and we must be bold. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make three statements. One, those patriotic St. Lucians working on the front lines of our justice system deserve all the help they can get from this government and the people of St. Lucia. Two, no citizen is immune to crime, as we have all experienced the situation. And three, as a society, if we collectively do not put all our shoulders to the wheel to tackle crime of every dimension, our society will be in for the worst. Mr. Speaker, crime in our small island has been on the upward trajectory for some time now, and certain categories, including gun violence, are on the rise. It leaves us, Mr. Speaker, to conclude that the several measures that we have taken in the past administration after administration, in an attempt to curb crime, have been inadequate, or perhaps those measures have received less than optimal implementation. This brings me, Mr. Speaker, to the point that when we pass legislation, we should not only simply pass legislation, but we must create the environment, the infrastructure, and the institutions with the power to be able to ensure legislation is effective. And so, Mr. Speaker, while this amendment is a bold, strong, and commendable measure, we all know that no single measure implemented or instituted on its own will cause any significant dent in our efforts to reduce crime. We must tackle the problem head-on and in a holistic manner. This goes out without saying. And so while today we are here to amend the existing legislation, Mr. Speaker, I know this is only part of a broader spectrum of things to come. Notwithstanding the need for a holistic approach, this measure before us today is a critical cog in that wheel of justice that I am hoping will send a strong message, a strong signal to indicate that we as a government are taking an important step in our crime-fighting efforts to safeguard the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, gun violence statistics over the years have grown exponentially, and our citizens are clearly at the end of the tether. Their fears are on the spiral once again, and they are looking to this government of hope to bring peace, harmony, and tranquility to our land. Mr. Speaker, consequently, we need to get a grip on gun violence, to begin with and to mitigate and derail the carnage in our once peaceful hailing of the West. You heard some of the members, Mr. Speaker, who can attest to individuals close to them, family and friends who have succumbed to gun violence. And you have heard, Mr. Speaker, the plea for strong legislation, for strong programs to deal with the current situation in the land. Our strategic imperatives, Mr. Speaker, must include a curtailment of the proliferation of guns in our country. Mr. Speaker, too many guns are in the hands of the wrong persons, and the legislation that we seek to amend to strengthen in this august chamber today will go a long way if it is enforced by the agencies relevant to enforcement. Mr. Speaker, we must never relent on our crime-fighting efforts and strategies for the very success of this government, and for this matter, any other government, will hinge on how well we can protect the constitutional right to provide security for our citizens and those who choose to visit us as a destination. Mr. Speaker, it is imperative that we protect, secure, and ensure that our country is safe for our people, our visitors, and our friends. Mr. Speaker, let me digress a bit to say that Japan, a country of over 260 million people, a country, Japan, of over 260 million people, have fewer than 10 gun-related murders a year. Fewer than 10 gun-related murders a year. Our next-door neighbor, if I'm right, Grenada, this year, a few weeks ago, recorded their 4th gun-related murder and were screaming for reform and the need to address the situation in that country. The efforts in Japan, Mr. Speaker, at limited gun violence have been undergirded by the implementation of gun control imperatives. Gun control. Mr. Speaker, let me also profit the opportunity while I speak of Japan to express my deepest sympathy to families, friends, and the people of Japan for the brutal and cowardly murder of their former Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, which occurred a few weeks ago. Japan is a great friend of St. Lucia as they continue to contribute to our social and economic development. In fact, the new bridge being built in cul-de-sac is a gift from the government and people of Japan. One which was granted, agreed to, approved in 2015, and the march continued since then, and today we are at the stage when we're about to complete it. We convey our sentiments to the people of Japan. Mr. Speaker, if all of us agree that gun violence levels are unacceptable, then this Parliament must do something very tangible about it. Break down the partisan walls, break down our egos, and let us work together. There must be no halfway measures. Whatever we do now or in the future must stand the test of time. And the only way we can stand the test of time in this Parliament by moving legislations, moving programs and approving programs, and being strong enough is that as we as Parliament to stand together and fight the common enemy, that of violence, particularly enabled by guns. Mr. Speaker, violence is a symptom of social harms which include substance abuse, adverse childhood experiences, and trauma and poor mental health. These, Mr. Speaker, cannot be forgotten while we take the hard measures, while we attempt to intercept and mitigate and to deal with the criminal ones we must begin to do the necessary transformation for the future to change the mindset of our society and to make our young people more responsible and certainly to be more peaceful. Mr. Speaker, in any planning environment, we must give serious consideration to the causes of deviant behavior in our society. A well-defined problem will always lead to adequate policy formulation. And this is where we should begin as we look to the future, but at the same time, indeed deal with the current problem that we have at our doorsteps now. Mr. Speaker, there are some measures, many are of the view, can contribute to positive outcomes. Introduce such programs as civics to all schools within our primary school system. And there are many people in society of my age who believe that we must reintroduce programs of civics in the schools. There are some who believe that victims of crime must have access to emotional support services, while there are others who believe that we must institute tougher penalties and custody. Mr. Speaker, all of these are necessary in a holistic approach to crime, dealing with crime. There are also, Mr. Speaker, those who say we must increase the use of stop and search by our law enforcement agencies, and not occasionally to stop and search, but to relentlessly stop and search to ensure that the culture is to make sure that persons are deterred from having firearms and other weapons in their possession. We believe that we must seek improvements to our justice system, tougher sentencing, and this is what we have sought to achieve with the introduction of this amendment bill. This amendment bill is about tougher sentencing to ensure that there is a deterrent. The use of scanners, Mr. Speaker, at our main ports of entry is necessary because we are very well aware that many of the arms which come into our country are coming into various forms, various containers and barrels, in containers, etc., dismantled or in whole, are entering our country. And because of the absence of proper equipment to be able to detect, they are able to evade the law enforcement agencies. Partnering with other neighboring territories, Mr. Speaker, for the use of radar systems to monitor our coastal waters is imperative. And some years ago, when I was Prime Minister, we received assistance from the Israeli government through Trinidad and Tobago, who installed 2 radar systems, one at Mulashik in VFO and the other at Fiji. I'm not too sure what's the state of those, but the intention was to be able to monitor the movement along our coastal waters. Mr. Speaker, I am particularly keen on the introduction of civics in all our primary schools. Over the years, in the absence of such classes or a paucity of these classes, we have sat idly by and watched the moral fabric of our society being shredded to tatters. It is time to do something about it, Mr. Speaker, and this government has the moral and political authority to take the action now and get it done. I know, Mr. Speaker, you can recall the days when civics, now renamed Education for Democratic Citizenship, was on the core curriculum in Form 1 and 2 at St. Mary's College and other educational institutions in this country. And I know, Mr. Speaker, this has in a big way shaped you into the individual you are today. I hope this is not too much credit to you, Mr. Speaker. I think we need to expand this to all our schools at an early age. And if we can do this, we would have laid the foundation for a more civilized society. In short, Mr. Speaker, we need to focus on early interventions, but we must also adopt a zero tolerance to all forms of deviant and criminal behavior. Mr. Speaker, where there are violations to our laws, there must be quick access to our courts. Justice must be swift, and custodial sentencing must give offenders the opportunities and tools to facilitate reintegration to society. Mr. Speaker, the more we provide support services to persons with convictions, the more we can reduce reoffending or recidivism. Mr. Speaker, as I have enunciated earlier, this bill is only one cog in a holistic approach that this government will implement as we seek to stem the tide of gun violence. And we, as members of this administration, stand together, red or blue, stand together in unison, in unity, together to fight the challenges ahead of us. It is in this light, Mr. Speaker, that I throw my unwavering support to this firearms amendment bill before us today. I want to congratulate, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister for being bold, for being transparent, and to come here strong to present this bill to demonstrate that we are prepared to take action and deal with the current situation of violence in our country. I thank you.